Hello, Green Team. We are on part 3 of 6 in our series of navigating a contract to closing. Congratulations. If you have gotten to this part of your contract, it means you've gotten through inspections in the TRR period, which is a big win. And you've only got a couple of hurdles left to get you to that sweet closing table. Uh, Two big hurdles. We'll go over one in this part and one in the next part, but this part is about the repair period. The repair period is toughest on the listing agent because the listing agent is usually the one coordinating repairs and working with the seller. Um, but there is this caveat. If you did happen to get that TRR that said no repairs required, or you have your buyer and seller have agreed to an amount in lieu of repairs, you get to skip this repair period for the most part, which is awesome and makes the contract move a little smoother through this process. But we're going to pretend like we're not that lucky, and we are going to work through what happens if repairs are agreed to during the TRR period. So again, this is part 3, which we're talking about repairs and reminders. And there's 5 sections in here. So first off, scheduling repairs, second, verifying repairs, third, sending utility info, fourth, coordinating moving, and fifth, explaining commitment for title insurance. So first off, we've got to schedule repairs. So I've got an example TRR that we're going to work through, but we want to talk about 3 pieces here in scheduling repairs. First, do we need licensed professionals? So I'm the listing realtor. My seller has agreed to do certain repairs for the property. So first off, I need to know what kind of people we need to schedule because they're asking me for recommendations. I need to know who I need to be recommending. So most TRs that require licensed professionals will have a clause something similar to this. All repairs to be done by a licensed professional in the associated field prior to closing. So these repairs up here in this section, the buyer is asking for a licensed professional to do the repairs. Even sometimes they'll have them in parentheses like this breakers one electrician and plumber down here for the leak. And then down here you see all repairs to be done prior to closing. These are basically saying you can have a handyman or whoever handle these, including fixing a dishwasher or filling in some dirt. Okay, so they're not asking for a licensed professional in this section. So I need to understand this as the listing realtor so I know who to recommend to the sellers to have these things done. So first thing you might do is, okay, the licensed professionals I need are an electrician and a plumber. First thing I want to do is go to my vendor list. I'm going to check out and see if we've got any good recommendations for an electrician. Scroll up here to electrician. Boom, we've got some options. And I might even ask around the realtors in the office and say, hey, anybody got to get an electrician they've had luck with lately? These kind of repairmen are they kind of ebb and flow with who is available and not available during different times. So it's always good to talk to your other realtors to see who they've had recently. And then plumbers down here, we got a whole bunch of options. Again, great idea to kind of pick the brains of the realtors around the office and say, hey, who have you had good experience with lately? Who's been available lately? They might give you a good idea of what you can use. The other piece is probably handyman that you'll probably want to recommend. We've got a whole list of those, and those are the people that could maybe fix the dishwasher and do the patio dirt under the front patio. So those items could be done by handyman. So we want to recommend, again, we don't want to recommend just one. We want to send 3 of each of these to our seller. And we want to say, hey, these are some options that other agents in my office have had clients that had success with. Feel free to use whoever you want. I can schedule them or you can schedule them. Just let me know. So if you're scheduling them, you're going to need to work with your seller to make sure that they are available at that time to let that repair person in and to do their work. So that's kind of the scheduling the repairs process. You're going to get them scheduled. You're going to get it worked out with the seller so these repairs can get done. The next step, once these repairs are scheduled, is we've got to actually get it verified. So the easiest way to get it verified is to get receipts from whoever did the work. From whomever did the work. We want to get these receipts that actually shows what they did and their signing and that it was paid. The key is that it's paid so that the buyer knows it's not someone that could come back with a lien in the future that says, hey, we did this work at this house, but we never got paid for it. So you want a paid receipt that shows that they did it. Something that really helps is some photos of the repair work that's been done that actually shows us it working or something like that. a really valuable way to verify to the buyers that the sellers have done the repairs. And the third way is they're going to go through their final walkthrough with their TRR, with their great buyer's agent. And if we're on the buyer side, we're going to have the TRR with us during that final walkthrough. And we're going to check all those repair items to make sure they were all completed. Even though we have the receipts and the photos, we just want to make sure in person, anything we can do to make the buyers feel very comfortable that what they requested to have done has been done. And so this is kind of the second step of the repair reminder period, which is verifying the repairs. Third step that we're going to walk into is the utility info. Now, not a lot of realtors do this, and this is how to up your real estate game. And if you're just getting started, as you likely are if you're in Green Team, this is a chance to separate yourself from other realtors. So we're going to work from the buyer and the seller side here. So let's start as the listing agent. If you're the listing agent, and we'll talk to you about this in our training on acquiring listings, ask the sellers who they use for utilities. Right up front, when you're getting the listing agreement signed, get their info for electric, gas, their trash, water, internet, cable, all of these items up front. All you have to do is say, hey, what company do you use? And then the second thing you can ask for, if you want to be a really good listing agent, you can go ahead and grab some estimates or a past bill from things like electric, because you may have some buyers inquire about it. So you're going to ask the sellers, hey, is it okay if I share this with buyers if they ask for it? And they're going to say, yeah, that's going to make buyers feel more comfortable buying our property because they're going to understand what costs are associated with our property. And this is a way that you can look really good as a listing agent, is getting this info ahead of time. So if you're the selling agent and we get to this point of the contract, we're under contract, we're working towards closing, I'm going to go ask the listing agent, hey, can you get me the utility info that I'm sure you got during the listing appointment? I wouldn't say it that way because who knows if they actually did, but you're hoping that they got it during the listing appointment. And we're going to get copies of that we can actually send on to our buyers. So now the buyers can go ahead and set up their utilities for the day they're going to move in for closing date. As the listing agent, I need to let the sellers know, hey, this is the closing date. Don't forget, you can shut off utilities the day after the closing date so that the buyers will actually take over. And some of the common utilities that we're dealing with are electric, gas, trash, water, which is around here mostly done through the city, and then internet, and then it's getting less popular, but cable, satellite, something like that. But internet is pretty crucial and a really good piece of info that can make you look like a rock star realtor to your clients by providing this info, especially before they even ask for it. You actually send that info over to them. Next step during this period is we got to coordinate moving. So some buyers and sellers don't understand exactly when the moving happens. They may say, okay, so we close on this date. So how many days after that do we have to get out of the house? That's a big question that we need to get handled early on so everyone's on the same page. As soon as the funding happens at the closing table, the buyers are now in possession of the house. So as soon as that funding moment happens, the title person brings out the folders and the keys are transferred hands. That's the possession of the house. Technically, everything in that house is now the possession of the buyers. So the sellers need to be completely out of that house by that point. On the flip side of the coin, the buyers have no possession of that house until that moment when the keys are handed over. They don't have possession to the yard, to the garage, to the driveway, any of that until that moment that funding happens. So everyone needs to understand that that moment is when the possession transfers hands, and both sides need to be coordinated and lined up to work with that. Now, you may have people that are selling a house and buying a house on the same day, back-to-back closings. And they're going to ask you, how the heck are we supposed to do that? We're supposed to just keep all our stuff in a U-Haul overnight. That's a great idea. A lot of people will stay in a hotel or with a friend, keep all their stuff in a U-Haul, go the next morning to closing, close it up, and then drive to their new house. Works out great in that scenario. But everyone's going to have a different way they want to handle this. You just need to work through it early on. This is a great time to work through it once the repairs have been done, to figure out exactly how moving is going to be coordinated. One thing you're going to run into is what's called early occupancy. Early occupancy is basically the buyers asking to move into the house a little bit early or to move some of their stuff in the house a little early. As realtors, we always say that we do not recommend this either to our buyers or our sellers. There's too many liabilities, too many things that can happen. So we never, ever recommend early occupancy. We could also have the sellers wanting to stay longer in the house and rent back the house from the buyers. Again, we never recommend this just because it can be too messy, too much liability. However, if both sides agree and it is required, we're going to fill out the form that's through the ORAC. Come talk to one of your brokers and we'll get you set up to make sure you do this properly. But just know that these situations increase the liability on everyone, and we don't want to do that unless we absolutely have to. So understand that possession happens at funding, and that's when the transfer of possession happens and the buyers get to take over the property. The next piece that you are going to have happen during this period is title commitment. You're going to get an email from a title company that says something like, here's the commitment for title insurance on in this property 4021 Sam Gordon Drive. So as a new realtor, you'll say, what the heck does this mean? What am I supposed to do with it? Here's what you do. What it means is the title company is agreeing under certain conditions that the title insurance policy is going to be approved for this specific property. If that is approved, what it's saying is that the buyers will be able to get title insurance. The property can be cleared for title, which means the buyers will be protected when they own the house. If someone comes and knocks on the door and says, we own the house, they've got a insurance policy that they can point back to the title company and say, hey, you guys deal with this. These guys think they own the house. We have been told we have clear title and we've got title insurance. One thing you might see on a title commitment is an exception. You'll see a lot of exceptions, but the title company will point out if there's a special exception. So here's just an example of a commitment for title insurance. It'll look kind of like this. And it's a really good thing to read through, especially right when you get out of real estate school, because you'll notice a lot of these terms associated with real estate school, including things like a fee simple estate. So you get to show off some of your knowledge there. But what we want to check are things like the buyer's name is properly in here, the policy amount makes sense. And then we want to go through any requirements or exceptions that are marked by the title company. You can see down here is exceptions. They've got the general ones that are always listed down here, and then they will highlight something if it is a concern to the title company. It'll say, hey, we've got a concern about this specific lien, this specific title piece, and this is where we're going to work through any of these exceptions. We'll connect the title company, and the listing agent will connect the title company to the sellers so that we can get a clear title set up, and the buyer would be worried about any exceptions and they would have the opportunity to dig a little deeper in it here. Most title commitments will come through clear. All you have to do is send it to the buyer. It gives you a reason to reach out to them. You say, hey, we just got the title and commitment. There were no special exceptions pointed out by the closer. And it's just for your information at this point. You'll get to see the final one at closing and you can sign it there. That's all you got to say. Looks like you're doing your job and it gives you a reason to reach out to your clients. So this is the period between your TRR getting agreed to and we start the closing process. So you want to navigate this period simultaneously with what we're going to go over in the next section, which is the financing process. This review and repair period happens at the same time as the financing process. And once both of those are cleared, you've cleared your last two big hurdles to get to the closing process, which is what we're all trying to get to. So we'll all catch you in the next section.